Well, first of all, it's important to say that Bolivia, as maybe a lot of countries, has suffered very big impacts, not only water but in agriculture and in food security, related to the climate change, which is a global process we are facing now. Bolivia has suffered so much because the geographical characteristics Bolivia has not only the Amazon region, but the highlands, and we have the mountains, which are very important in order to provide water, not only for the ecosystems I have mentioned, the Amazon, which receives the water that is produced in our big mountains, but of course the scarcity of water in the cities, in the urban areas, in the peasants and indigenous populations, so that one of the worst impacts we have been suffering related to climate change is precisely the impact in water. Every year we have problems with floods, with droughts in different parts of the country. Some parts of the country have been suffering, for example, droughts that they haven't been suffering before. It is a surprise for us that parts of the country, of the Amazon region, for example, which didn't have problems of droughts before, I am talking about 10 years ago or maybe 20 years ago, are now suffering in a very extreme situation, the scarcity of water, even 3 or 2 months after finishing the season of rain. So that is a surprise for us. Cities or little towns or populations who are in the heart of the Amazon are now suffering the scarcity of water 2 or 3 months after the rain time has finished. And they are beginning to make wells in order to have water for 6 or 8 months of the year, which is a big surprise for us. On the other hand, we have big regions of the country, like the Chaco region, which is the second region in importance in biodiversity and forest after the Amazon region. We share the Chaco region with other countries like Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil. It's a very big region where we have a regular, the scarcity of water and the drought is almost part of the nature there. It's not a new thing, but it is in process of being extremely getting worse, extremely, so that it affects, of course, the economy, the agriculture of the region, the food security, and even puts in very big risk the conditions of the populations of the peasants and even the cities of this region. Other region that is suffering now droughts, and it's also a surprise because before in the past this region was not precisely in this condition, which is the highlands, what we know as the Altiplano. The central part of the Altiplano, I mean the department of Oruro, part of the department of La Paz, is suffering also droughts in certain months of the year, and is increasing the impacts related to pollution in water. As we know, one of the impacts in water related to climate change is precisely the pollution which exists before the climate change. That's true, but is extremely worse, get worse with the scarcity of water and the increasing of temperature. So that pollution is one of the problems we're suffering in this region where we have mining companies operating. The scarcity of water, and even for human consume, are part of the problems we have now. Bolivia needs to develop programs and plans for adaptations to climate change. I think that one of the big challenge we have is to develop strategies and plans of adaptation in national and subnational level. We have to have one main issue in the development of these plans of adaptation, and the main issue is precisely water. We have to develop programs for building infrastructure in order to have more water sources, to get better the water sources we have, to have the provision of more and better in quality of water for human consume and agriculture. That implies to make big investments in infrastructure. We are making important efforts with our national budgets. We haven't received enough financial resources and technical assistance and technology transfer from developed countries. We have, of course, the responsibility to say that some of the developed countries have been helping, assisting us in terms of providing financial resources for that, but it is not enough. And this is important to be mentioned because the Convention of Climate Change of the United Nations establishes clearly in the Article 4.7 that developed countries have the obligation, the duty to provide financial resources and technology in order to create the condition in developing countries to face the challenge of adaptation and mitigation. Every year we have, of course, also floods. We have to make important investments on that. Bolivia has had the impact in the GDP of the floods and droughts of around 17% in the last 10 years. That is a lot for our country, and that implies the necessity of rebuild the infrastructure that we are losing every year because of droughts and floods. And of course that implies a very big effort in our national budgets. So we need to have an alliance with developed countries, with international institutions, in order to provide the appropriate conditions, financially, technologically speaking, to support this process of adaptation to climate change.